I'm Mauricio Enuma. I'm the Vice President and General Manager for the Americas at Blancco Technology Group. Blancco Technology Group is the world's leading provider of data sanitization solutions. We ensure that the data that needs to be gone is permanently, verifiably, and certifiably sanitized so that nobody can recover it, including potentially hackers in a forensic laboratory environment. So we ensure that that the data attack surface is reduced and that organizations can remain compliant with data security and privacy standards pertaining to the erasure of data at end of life. Data sanitization really applies to any organization because all organizations are producing data. Those that are in highly regulated industries or that are storing and processing particularly sensitive data are going to have a higher burden of compliance associated with data security and privacy regulations and internal policies. So for those organizations, data sanitization is particularly urgent, but it does apply to anybody because sooner or later, data-bearing devices need to be erased because the devices come to end of life, or they might be redeployed to the organization or onto the secondary market to be sold as a used device. There have been cases of financial institutions who have contracted third parties to take data-bearing assets, laptops in this case, and then some servers as well, to be decommissioned and ultimately destroyed or resold. And they failed to properly sanitize the data. Those devices was a massive breach, very sensitive customer data, financial data, and very large SEC fines in this case that were levied against that bank. In another case, similarly, a contractor working for a government agency in the Washington, D.C. area took some laptops. And in this case, although the third party had proper procedures and policies in place, there was a nefarious employee who essentially signed fraudulently fake documents certifying the data erasure, took those devices and resold them on the black market. That also led to a data breach. So in hardware, having the ability to deploy on short notice and with minimal hassle, a data sanitization tool helps to process those assets whenever it moves or changes hands or is decommissioned. And so having it included in the hardware, if you will, is always an important and valuable consideration. And in fact, we have customers that are doing that, partners that are actively exploring that, and customers that are interested in that capability. As it relates to, in particular, hyperscaler data centers, typically the data security requirements are extremely stringent, given how sensitive it is to process any sort of hardware that has been in a secure data center environment. And so we have focused on providing capabilities for those organizations to be able to perform complete erasures as early as in rack, meaning as soon as a particular server or storage device has been identified for decommissioning or redeployment, to be able to actually perform the erasure there. And then subsequent to that, at any point as that device is being handled, there are ways to deploy erasure software like Blancco's to ensure that the organization and their customers and their partners reduce the risk of data leakage. The bottom line is this: if the data is gone, it can't be stolen. So data sanitization happens to be one of the very few kind of final absolute security controls. In many cases, organizations, because they're concerned about data breaches and data leaks, will simply physically destroy the device. There are several problems with that. First of all, it's incredibly wasteful. And in fact, almost half of data center hardware that is being decommissioned is still usable. And a similarly high percentage applies to laptops and mobile devices. They can still be used. They can be resold, repurposed, et cetera. So it's hugely wasteful. It contributes to an e-waste problem. It adds to a carbon footprint. So that's a big problem. Also, given the advances in data storage media and the density of data that can be stored on it, now physically pulverizing, shredding, or crushing is no longer an acceptable form of data destruction according to the latest standard from IEEE 2883. The only physical destruction they would allow to be considered a complete data purge is smelting. So that is also hugely wasteful. Much better to run a software-based data sanitization to verify it at the microscopic level, at the binary ones and zeros level, so that you know it's gone, and then have an erasure certificate from a certified body that says and verifies and attests to the fact that the data is truly gone. Blancco actually just within the last month published the 2025 State of Data Sanitization Report, first report of its kind based on a survey of over 2,000 IT, cybersecurity, and sustainability professionals around the world. And the data that we got from that survey was fascinating and disturbing, frankly. It showed that actually data collected from stolen devices still remains one of the largest sources of a breach. I was actually surprised to read that it actually surpassed stolen credentials and ransomware, according to our survey respondents. And this survey was conducted by an independent third-party research organization with very credible research methods. So that was surprising to see. That continues to remain a problem. And so what we try to do is help our customers implement and sustain best practices for data sanitization. And it really comes down to three parts. One, you have to properly sanitize to an established standard. The primary standards are published by NIST and IEEE. Number two, it has to be verified. And number three, the organization needs to be able to prove that it's been done. And that is to be able to provide a audit-ready, tamper-resistant report that certifies and attests to the erasure. The global data sphere continues to grow exponentially. And the data, no pun intended, supports that. And a large portion of the enterprise data sphere is ROT data, stands for redundant, obsolete, and trivial data. That data is just sitting there being unused, consuming storage space and energy resources, and contributes to this burgeoning attack surface, a data attack surface, if you will, because now the organization has to attempt to track it and protect it. So reducing ROT data is important. And the State of Data Sanitization report that I referenced earlier includes additional insightful survey results that suggest a large portion of the respondents' organizational data spheres were in fact comprised of ROT data. The most important differentiator and the most important quality you need in any vendor that claims to do data sanitization is trustworthiness. We cannot actually look at the ones and zeros, right, within a drive to ensure that's been sanitized. We have to trust the tool. Blancco has more certifications by independent laboratories and third-party certifying bodies than anyone else by far. And that has been performed around the world. And so our erasures can be trusted. We've performed over 250 million erasures without a single breach. That's the most important thing.